After FBI's Season 7 finale, now I get why it has eclipsed One Chicago and Law and Order as Dick Wolf's best procedural. The intense FBI Season 7 finale proves why the CBS procedural has eclipsed all shows in One Chicago and the Law and Order franchise as Dick Wolf's best series. As someone who regularly watches police procedurals, I'm familiar with Wolf and his franchises. Granted that it's difficult to not know about Law and Order and its iconic theme song, even for those who aren't ingrained in broadcast television. But between my job and personal affinity to long-running shows, I tend to gravitate towards his shows. While I'm fairly caught up with the Law and Order franchise and One Chicago, it took me a while to get into FBI and its spin-offs. Perhaps it's because the trio is uniquely airing on CBS, as opposed to Wolf's usual network, NBC, and I usually associate the broadcaster with NCIS and its universe. I do know, however, that all three shows are beloved by their respective fan bases, which have some overlaps. Hence, why there was a massive backlash when FBI, International and FBI, Most Wanted were canceled. Despite that, the flagship series is continuing, which I'm happy about. I am familiar with all three FBI shows on CBS, but I must admit that I am more drawn to the original show after getting into them fairly recently. Despite the spin-offs having higher stakes, considering their finals would be their last, I was more keen on catching what Jubal, Jeremy Sisto, and his team would be up to for their year-ender. FBI Season 7, Episode 22. A New Day is about the New York HQ being infiltrated by moles from the rogue group, Forefront. The outing opens with Jubal talking to a whistleblower, Agent Kevin Saxton, played by The Big Bang Theory's Kevin Sussman. Things become intense quickly, as the meeting is hijacked by two members of the villainous group. Jubal is the only person to survive the attack, resulting in his director Reynolds, Ben Shankman, suspecting him of being the mole. Luckily for him, Isabel Alana de la Garza steps in to vouch for his loyalty to the agency. Soon after, the FBI Season 7 finale progresses into one of the most exciting procedural episodes of recent years. It features a tragic bombing, a fake death, and the good guys operating in the shadows. Its main action set piece, in particular, is executed brilliantly, with its backdrop being an abandoned New York subway station, and the connecting tunnels a reminder of the show's setting. I have seen all Wolf Entertainment finals for the 2024 to 2025 TV cycle, and I can confidently say that A New Day is the best of the bunch overall. Ultimately, the FBI Season 7 finale is well-balanced in its storytelling focus between personal and professional plots, while also highlighting heightened stakes, exactly what I want in a finale. It highlights the camaraderie of Isabel and Jubal's team, and just when you thought things are all good, it leaves you with a major cliffhanger. Comparing this to the year-enders of the One Chicago shows and Law and Order franchise, A New Day is definitely a more solid way to wrap up the year for Wolf's universe, which has been mired in multiple cast exits in the last few cycles. Chicago Med Season 10, Chicago Fire Season 13, and Chicago PD Season 12's respective cappers focus more on personal stakes, resulting in a lackluster procedural aspect offering. Beyond that, there are several issues that stems from some of the bigger creative decisions the writers made in One Chicago's final Wednesday of the 2024 to 2025 TV cycle. Surprisingly, while Law and Order used to lean towards cases opposite of its Wednesday siblings, both SVU and the original's finales don't feel like special outings in both aspects, bar some brilliant moments. Somehow, all these finales are reflections of the rest of One Chicago and Law and Order storytelling throughout the year, and they are a good gauge of quality of the franchises thus far. Interestingly, it appears to also be correlated to viewers' response to all Wolf Entertainment shows. FBI is the most watched series in the universe, averaging 8.2 million viewers per week via TV Line. It is followed by Chicago Fire with 7.87 million, while Law and Order. SVU just missed the top 25 with just 5.69 million. It's worth noting that FBI also spurned multiple spin-offs: FBI Most Wanted and FBI Most International. Both shows are among the canceled projects of 2025, despite ranking higher in ratings compared to some of its Wolf Entertainment series. The flagship, however, remains steadfast in its run, with the show moving to Monday nights for CBS Fall 2025 schedule. Eclipsing well-established shows, despite being the youngest flagship in the franchise, is quite impressive. But that may actually have Order franchise have been on the air for over a decade. This means that it has gone through so many changes in the past. For comparison, Elliot Stabler hasn't even left yet in Law and Order, SVU Season 8, which is FBI's upcoming year. While it has gone through several changes in its ensemble, primarily when it comes to the role of the special agent in charge of the New York field office, the core characters have relatively stayed the same, with Maggie, Jubal, OA, and Scola still in the series. At this point, only time will tell if FBI is able to sustain this level of storytelling or its current ensemble. For what it's worth, I'm still enjoying One Chicago and the Law and Order franchise, albeit some grudges with the way some personal stories are handled. That said, FBI is on a different level right now, at least with regard to making the most of its often underestimated format and cast. Things can easily change, given the nature of broadcast television. But as a whole, Wolf Entertainment might want to borrow a page from its youngest flagship in terms of wrapping up a year. I'll admit it, I used to see FBI as the procedural underdog in Dick Wolf's sprawling television empire. It didn't have the gritty edge of Law and Order, SVU, nor the firehouse heroism and family bonds of Chicago Fire. It didn't have the flash, the long legacy, or the iconic theme music that has echoed across living rooms for decades. But then came the Season 7 finale, and everything changed. Now, I get it. FBI has quietly been building something remarkable over these 7 seasons. The show has evolved from a crime of the week procedural into a masterclass in tension, character complexity, and sociopolitical relevance. Season 7's finale was more than a capstone. It was a declaration. A declaration that FBI isn't just in the conversation about top-tier procedurals. It is the conversation. What made the finale so electrifying wasn't just the case, though it was a barn burner. A bomb threat tangled with international espionage, an AI leak gone rogue, and a morally gray tech CDO who was either a hero or the villain of the decade. The pacing was relentless, the stakes skyscraper high, and the investigation twisted through enough red herrings to make Agatha Christie sit up in her grave. But more than the plot, it was the emotional undercurrent that hit like a freight train. Jubal Valentine, always the steady anchor in the chaos, was unraveling. His son's sudden health crisis forced him to balance personal trauma with professional duty in a way that felt ashingly real. Owe's growing disillusionment with the system clashed with his innate sense of justice, pulling him toward a choice that could reshape his role in the Bureau, or take him out of it entirely. Maggie's return from undercover wasn't a triumphant march, but a haunted, cautious re-entry that reminded us how high the personal costs can be for these agents. And then there was Scola and Nina. What started as a somewhat standard office romance has grown into one of the most grounded, bittersweet love stories in procedural television. Watching them navigate parenthood, ambition, and the terrifying unpredictability of their work has added layers no other wolf show has dared to explore quite this deeply. When Nina was forced to choose between backing her instincts or supporting her partner during a tactical call gone wrong, the tension wasn't just about protocol. It was about trust. The kind that can either fracture or forge a bond into something unbreakable. The brilliance of FBI lies in its ability to reflect the world we live in without feeling like a soapbox. The show doesn't lecture. It shows. Whether it's tackling domestic terrorism, data privacy, extremism, or systemic failure, the writers trust the audience to draw conclusions. The Season 7 finale handled AI surveillance and civil liberties with more nuance in 42 minutes than some cable news panels do in a week. That's not just good storytelling. That's relevant storytelling. Contrast that with One Chicago. Don't get me wrong. I love watching Severide grapple into burning buildings as much as the next viewer. But somewhere along the way, the show started to feel safe, too glossy, too comfortable. Firefighters giving speeches on rooftops. Police officers reconciling after neatly packaged conflicts. Doctors diagnosing rare diseases with heartwarming music swelling in the background. It's good. It's reliable. But it's not urgent. And Law and Order. It's still the backbone of the genre, but the magic of the early days has dimmed. The rhythms feel predictable now. The format is so baked into the culture that the surprise is gone. Even SVU, with Mariska Hargitay still giving Emmy-worthy performances, has moments where it feels more like a tribute to its own legacy than a fresh evolution.